so, because the Home Office has to go further and it has to go faster.
I call Shadow Minister Stephen Kinnock.
Thank you, Dame Angela. It's a pleasure to serve under your chairship. And I'd like to thank all those who've contributed to the debate today and pay tribute particularly to my honourable friend, the chair of the Home Affairs Select Committee, who's doing such important work on this matter. I'd like to pay tribute as well to my honourable friend, the member for Hackney North, who spoke with such passion about these issues, which really are personal for her. And I'd like to pay tribute to the other honourable members who've spoken in the debate today. Let's be clear, the Windrush generation have been failed twice. Once by the Conservative government's hostile environment programme that harassed and discriminated against innocent victims, and now secondly by the delay and blockages in delivering compensation to victims of this terrible scandal. The National Audit Office has been critical of the Windrush compensation scheme, and now the Home Affairs Select Committee's report has revealed a magnitude of failings, which make clear that the culture within the Home Office has failed miserably to change when it needed to. The report states that many people who've applied for compensation have yet to receive a penny, and we have heard too many stories of people struggling with impossible demands for evidence and poor communication from the Home Office. The experience of applying for compensation from the Home Office has become a source of further trauma rather than of redress. And it goes on to say many of the concerns raised with us about the Windrush compensation scheme as part of this inquiry have echoes of the same criticisms made of the Home Office by Wendy Williams in her report into how the Windrush scandal occurred in the first place. It's a damning indictment of the Home Office that the design and operation of this scheme contained the same bureaucratic insensitivities that led to the Windrush scandal in the first place. This is a damning assessment, and it further confirms the fears that the Home Office, in its current guise, is currently not fit for purpose, and that the Home Secretary's leadership can be characterised as being a mixture of incompetence and indifference. The failure to proactively seek out those victims to whom the Home Office had caused so much suffering has only added to the delays. Between 4,000 and 6,000 claimants are thought to be eligible. But at the end of January, only 960 people, around just 20% of those eligible for compensation, have applied, while fewer than 10% have received any compensation at all. It is no wonder, of course, that the victims of Windrush have lost faith in the Home Office to deliver this scheme. The treatment of the Windrush generation simply has not improved. Some of the most damning criticism from Wendy Williams' review through to this Home Affairs Committee report has been around the culture in the Home Office. Wendy Williams found that the Home Office was characterised by a culture of disbelief and carelessness, a lack of empathy for individuals, and perhaps most tellingly, institutional ignorance and thoughtlessness towards the issue of race. That is why the Labour Party, along with voices from across society, including, of course, members of the Windrush generation, are calling for the compensation scheme to be completely overhauled by placing it in the hands of an independent body away from the Home Office. Recommendation 3 of the Home Affairs Committee report explicitly echoes Labour's calls, but the government has shamefully and predictably rejected this suggestion. The Labour Party believes that the body leading the compensation scheme must have the confidence of victims so as to restore faith in the process and to quickly get compensation for people who have been so appallingly treated. Adding to this lack of trust is the fact that the Home Secretary has still not implemented all of the findings of the Williams Independent Review, despite committing to do so in June 2020, Dame Angela. Where is, for instance, the Migrants Commissioner? The opposition is also calling on ministers to come forward and give cast-iron guarantees on when each and every one of the 30 recommendations will be published. Not just a promise that they will be, when will they be implemented? There has been a complete failure by the Home Office to put right the damage done to the Windrush generation, and to give them the compensation they deserve. In fact, the process of applying for compensation through this scheme replicates many of the issues experienced by victims initially: long delays and excessive burdens on individuals to provide unrealistic documentation. And it is worth noting that, tragically, 23 people who applied to the scheme have died before receiving their compensation. The government must act, and it must act at speed. So against that backdrop, I have some questions for the Minister. In January, the Home Office was forced to apologise to hundreds of charities and community groups still waiting for decisions on funding applications needed to support Windrush victims to apply to this scheme. We've seen delays with the scheme itself and now delays with this vital funding. Can the Minister set out today what he is doing to put this right? At the end of January, more than 90% of Windrush victims are yet to receive a penny, and 80% haven't even applied. Can the Minister give us the updated figures and explain what the government is doing to encourage more victims to come forward? On this note, does the Minister agree that trust between this Home Office and the Windrush generation is irreparably damaged, and that this vital compensation scheme must be handed to an independent organisation to ensure victims come forward and get the redress they deserve? This will surely help restore faith in the process and get compensation quickly to people who've been so appallingly treated. And finally, 23 members of the Windrush generation have tragically died, as I said earlier, whilst waiting for the compensation they deserve from this scheme. This is an ageing group of claimants. What is the Minister doing specifically to speed up the process to ensure the Windrush generation get the compensation they deserve? Dame Angela, the lack of progress on the Windrush compensation scheme is allowing the shameful failings exposed by the Wendy Williams review to continue. The reality is the time has come for warm words to be over. There has to be a fundamental change in the Home Office and a fundamental change in the compensation scheme. The government must get on and deliver the compensation the Windrush victims are entitled to following the dreadful, dreadful miscarriages of justice brought about by the government's immoral and unlawful hostile environment policy. The former Home Secretary said that the government will do right by the Windrush generation. We're yet to see the current Home Secretary coming close to this aspiration. The time for platitudes is over. The time for action is now. Thank you.